radio station, WHIP. 215-204-9449 is the number if you want to hop on board with us. A great segment a few moments ago with former Jets general manager Mike Tannenbaum talking some free agency and what the Birds are doing. But last night was Selection Sunday, and now joining us is our favorite coach in all of NCAA basketball, and that's Fran Dunphy. Join us in studio. Fran, Zach, and Chase, great to see you again. How are you?
I'm good, Zach. Thanks for telling me that I'm your favorite. I appreciate that.
Well, we always do enjoy watching you coach our Temple Owls, and it was a down year for the Cherry and the White, but you had a lot of players that were young getting a lot of good, valuable experience, and the one thing I was impressed about with your team was that they never quit, and I would have to imagine that as a coach, that was very encouraging despite the record.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Zach. I think we got that comment by a lot of people. It was a challenging year for us. We thought it was going to be challenging. We were hoping it wouldn't be as challenging as it turned out to be. We put ourselves in pretty good position to win a number of games, but didn't win enough in order to feel good about ourselves, to be honest with you. So it is comforting to know that we did compete every single possession, but we need to get better. There's no question about it.
And it's an odd feeling not having you guys in the NCAA tournament. We've seen the runs that you guys have been on through the years. Last year, taking Indiana down to the wire. But I think you guys could bounce back quickly. You bring in a lot of transfers that sat out this year, and you bring in some recruits as well. Obi's coming in next year. You have Jalen is going to be active next year, as along with Coleman, and even the possibility of Jesse Morgan if you get his eligibility right. Those players that I just mentioned, those four guys, I would have to imagine would help you guys a lot next year if they get their eligibility fixed.
Well, I would agree with you. We're excited by what they're going to bring to the program, and then also the addition of getting Daniel Dingle back. I think we've said it a lot of times over the last number of months. Daniel is probably the best teammate that we all have, and I think just to miss his presence out on the court has been a little bit troubling for us. So now we'll get him back in full speed and hopefully very good health next year.
Coach, this is a team, you've taken them to 6 straight NCAA tournaments before this season. They've taken down a top 25 team in each of the last 7 years. Is it a little bit weird knowing this year you're not going to be in the NCAA tournament with no postseason play?
Yeah, it is different. And it's we just had our Coaches versus Cancer breakfast on the floor of the Palestra. In the last 6 years, we've been, I've been trying to get out of there very quickly so that we can prepare for our next opponent. This year, we don't have that issue to deal with, so I hung around a little bit longer, and I was excited about being on this radio show today. So I got here as quickly as I possibly could after some of the duties we had. But yeah, it's different. It's different, and it's one of those. Like yesterday is probably the best day of the year when you're in. Mm-hmm. It might be the worst day of the year when you're not.
Before we look at this entire bracket and the NCAA tournament as a whole, just wanted to get your thoughts on Dalton Pepper. He only spent 3 years here, 2 playing, 1 sitting out, but he had a magnificent season this year and really did a lot for this program.
Yeah, I'm very proud of what Dalton accomplished, and some might ask, well, why couldn't he have gotten more playing time last year? And he didn't play as well as he played this year. This year, I think he got the confidence going for him, and I think it was one of those deals where we were never probably going to take him out, and he knew that, and he got comfortable out there, and he did a really good job with it, and I was very, very proud of him, and hopefully he will play basketball far into the future as well.
Fran Dunphy joins us in the studio, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Gelb and Chase here with you for the main event, taking up until noon Eastern time, where Temple Sports Hour will come your way. And when you have a player that's in his senior year and it ends on a sour note because you guys aren't getting into the NCAA tournament, and we always talked with Dalton throughout the season, and he talked about how he wanted to get back into the tournament with his past success in the tourney. What do you say to a player when he ends up and finishes off his career playing for you, because he gave you a whole lot of dedication and passion to this program?
Well, much of the last couple of weeks of the season, that was sort of our mantra. Let's let Dalton Pepper play a lot more basketball, and because I think he deserved that. He really had a terrific year for us. He led us in a number of categories. He probably was our best defender as well, although we did not play defense as well as we needed to. But Dalton was a guy who you could count on to play inside and out. He actually played a lot of power forward for us late in game situations when we went 4 guards as well. So he's very versatile, and we certainly will miss Dalton as we prepare for next year.
Taking a look at the bracket, Louisville gets a 4, and SMU doesn't even get into the tournament. I don't think that was too kind of the NCAA selection committee to do that. I don't get how you don't put SMU in. Do you have any reasons when you wake up today and say, hey, how is SMU not in the tournament? Because I just don't see a good reason why they were left out of the big field.
You know, somebody mentioned to me their non-conference schedule, and I guess it was ranked somewhere in the 300s. So that probably hurt them. Late season losses probably hurt them. Although I thought they had a terrific year. I thought they made a great impact in our conference. I thought they started to make a big impact on the SMU campus as well. Everybody got behind them, and my guess is they'll be pretty successful as they go into the NIT tournament. But that was disappointing that they didn't get in.
St. Joe's is a team that got in. They had a great run in the Atlantic 10 tournament, capturing the championship yesterday over VCU after losing their last 2 games of the regular season. They don't have a lot of depth, but their starting 5 is very talented, and Halil Kenisevic has been playing out of his mind in that point-forward role. You have a special relationship with Phil Martelli. How great is it to see him get in after not being in the tournament since 2008?
Well, as we had that breakfast this morning, we were certainly celebrating Villanova, St. Joe, and Delaware because Monte Ross is a Philly guy as well, and also Coach Martelli's son coaches there at Delaware. So we were celebrating that, and I think that it's 3 really good basketball programs. They deserve to be in. It was interesting. We were talking about the St. Joe program and did it last night as well, where they were struggling early in the year. They had lost to us here on a Wednesday night, lost to Villanova on a Saturday, and somehow they got it all back together again. And my guess is they really committed to the defensive end of the floor, because every time I would look up and see their halftime scores, it would be 40-20. It would be 45 to 19. It would be just an incredible defensive mindset that seemingly they got on. Then you add to that Langston Galloway had a very good year and a very timely shooting, and Kanisevic is just a really good basketball player, and he just needs to stay on the floor. But those 3 seniors, to include Ron Roberts, who had a terrific year as well, I think really led their team.
The Hawks will be taking on UConn. That's a team that you went up against 2 times. Shabazz Napier is as good as it gets at the guard position, and Kevin Ollie has really done a good job in 2 years as the head man up there in UConn. I know Martelli doesn't really talk to other coaches about what his team needs to do against another squad, but if you were to give advice to St. Joe's about taking on UConn, what are some of the things that the Hawks would have to do to stop the Huskies?
Well, I think they probably need to play like they've been playing. They've done, again, a very solid job on the defensive end. I don't know that they've faced the likes of Napier over that stretch of time because he is really a good basketball player. And they're going to have to run good offense, too, because Connecticut can really defend you. So like every other game that we all play, you have to be solid on the defensive end. You have to make good decisions on offense. You have to make some shots as well. You're not going to get a whole lot of open looks. And when you do, you've got to convert, and you've got to get some other baskets going for you, too. Maybe get to the foul line a little bit. So Connecticut's really a good team. St. Joe's has really had a great finish to the season. It should be interesting, and then if they win and Villanova wins, they would play each other, which would be great for Philadelphia.
How special would that really be, though, for Philadelphia's Fran Dunphy joined us in the studio? I think it'd be incredible to see both of those schools go at it with all the tradition and history of the Big Five.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Zach, and it'll be fun for me if that's the matchup. I'll be able to sit back and watch it. I'd rather be playing, but a second thought would be to watch 2 Big Five teams go after each other. And we talked a little bit about it at the breakfast this morning. It's not like either guy's going to be worried about playing Villanova or playing St. Joe. I think really what they're worried about is how's my team playing, and are we doing the best thing we can do out there in terms of the defensive end and the mentality that we have, and certainly playing good enough offense.
The defending champs, Louisville, are red hot, led by Rick Pitino, and he's done another sensational job with that squad this year. I think they're playing the best basketball in the country right now. I don't know if they're going to get back to the finals. I haven't made my bracket selection picks yet, but when you take a look at a team like Louisville, they were a 4 seed. I could have made the argument they could have been a 1 or a 2. Does that affect a team when you're expected to be a little bit rated higher and then you get down to a 4 seed?
I think the only effect it would have is you might have a chip on your shoulder saying, I'm going to prove some people wrong. But I would agree with you. I thought they were good enough to be a 1. If not a 1, they were certainly good enough to be a 2 at this point in time. But that's not what the committee suggested to the rest of the world. And I'm sure Louisville will live with it. I'm sure they'll talk about it. I'm sure they'll forget about it as they go out and try to beat the pants off of whoever the opponent's going to be as they move forward.
Tony Bennett has done a really good job with Virginia, and they get a number 1 seed for the first time in a very long time. They've really impressed a lot of people, and arguably the best conference in college basketball. It's a really good defensive team, and every player on that squad has really bought into what Bennett wants to accomplish. How important is it to establish the message from the get-go and get players to buy in so that you can put yourselves in position to make deep runs in the NCAA tournament and compete when, frankly, nobody is really giving you a chance to before the season?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure where they were picked before the season. It was probably in the middle of the pack or maybe a little bit higher than the middle of the pack. Not higher meaning less good.
Right.
But I think they've accomplished everything they've wanted to accomplish. I think you're right. I think they bought in defensively, and they got that mindset. And I think a lot of what they do defensively depends on what they do offensively. They're not a quick shoot kind of team. They run good offense. So as a result, they all take pretty good shots, and their floor balance is good. So while it's difficult to score in a half court, you might be able to get an occasional drive to the basket in transition, and yet they're limiting that because they've got such good floor balance. So I really like their team. Tony Bennett has done a wonderful job. His father before him taught him a lot about how to approach the game, and I think Tony's learned well.
Obviously, during the season, it's full focus to your team and your duties as a head coach, but do you get an opportunity to kind of keep an eye on and a tab on the rest of the teams around the country, especially with some of your friends that you do have at the coaching level?
Yeah, you do. Most of the time it's late at night that you're getting a chance to finally sit down and watch some other games, and so you do that. And some of the guys you know very well, other teams you don't know quite as well, but are very impressed with. And we have a crazy profession. It's something that I wouldn't trade for all the world. But you watch a lot of basketball, and even if your team is not playing at this point, I want to continue to watch. I want to continue to learn and grow and get better as a coach, and maybe steal a play or two here, or a philosophy or two there.
Wichita State, they're the 1 seed. They're undefeated this year. We had Doug Gottlieb on the show last week, and he thought they were going to get a 1 seed, but he didn't think they were deserving of it. And that's a team that went to the Final Four last year. They were the Cinderellas of the tournament. I understand their strength of schedule wasn't the best in the country, but when you look at Wichita State, do you have any problem with them being a 1 seed? None
whatsoever. They beat the teams that were in front of them. They were given a schedule, and they made a schedule, obviously in the non-conference, but they were given their schedule in the league play, and they went through undefeated. So I'm not sure how much better they can do. And you see this region there, and I think it's the most rigorous region in the bracket. You have Wichita State, Louisville, Kentucky, St. Louis, Massachusetts, and you know how good they are, Duke and Michigan. I don't think that gets any better for a region that we've seen in quite some time. Well, I'm going to not disagree with you, but I would suggest to you that you can go down each one of these brackets, and there's some really good basketball teams that are in every one of them. You've got to play good basketball, and even when you don't play your best game, you're going to need to get lucky on a last-second shot or a last-second great play by one of your student athletes, and you got to get lucky here. 6 games in a row is a tough road to hoe. So if you are the national champion, you have certainly earned it in this field of 68. I watched every play of the Michigan State-Michigan game in the Big Ten Championship yesterday, and Gary Harris is as good as it gets. He could be a lottery pick next year if he decides to come out, and Adrian Payne down low is a really talented forward. He can stretch the floor and shoot from the outside. But Tom Izzo, who actually took down Temple in 2001 in the Elite Eight, his resume is unbelievable. What makes Izzo so good as a head coach, and how has he been able to establish this tenure for so long? Yeah, I would think most of these guys who are as successful as they are, and Izzo is a future Hall of Fame coach, they're driven. There's a single-mindedness of purpose, and they get guys who are pretty good basketball players as well, and they have bought in. And I think when you carry the resume and the cachet that somebody like Tom Izzo has, you're understanding that this is not going to be an easy task. there's going to be some really good players there, and if you don't work the hard as you possibly can, you're not going to get what you want out of this. And that's obviously to better your career as a college basketball player, but also to hopefully get to those heights of the NBA game.
It seemed as though every big-time and headline coach that came in to play Temple this season in Philadelphia complimented you to the utmost extreme. Does that humble you a little bit, hearing some of these future Hall of Fame coaches praise you to that level?
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that. And I've been around a few years, so that's I've known most of these guys that I'm coaching against. Some I have coached against them. Coach Pitino I did coach against in previous years. Coach Larry Brown I had never had coached against, but I had been to many, many of his practices when he was a Philadelphia 76ers basketball coach. So I think that they've seen the level of our success over the years, and they've given us some respect by that, and I'm grateful for that. But they've been great to me, but they've also been very difficult to play against as well.
On the way out here with Temple men's head basketball coach Fran Dunphy, who's kind enough to join us in studio for a few minutes. You mentioned those Sixers. They're in a rebuilding stage right now. Brett Brown, I think, has done a pretty good job with this team this year, although they've had a lot of losses as of late in a row. Nerlens Noel, they bring him in. He hasn't played yet, but he should be a solid foundation along with Michael Carter-Williams. It's all about getting that number 1 or number 2 pick this year to get the ultimate prizes in a deep draft of either an Andrew Wiggins or a Jabari Parker. I don't know how much basketball you're able to watch of those two teams this year, but do you have a preference between Wiggins or Parker, or is it just, hey, either player, I'll take him on my team?
Yeah, I don't know that the Sixers are going to be having that kind of luxury. Say, okay, I want this guy or that guy. They may get more ping pong balls, but they may not get that first pick or even the second pick. It's really a crapshoot at this point. Would I like either one over the other? No, I think they're both really good basketball players, and they both fit into what the Sixers' needs are. And I hope that they get a high pick, and whether or not they may see somebody differently than you and I see at this point. And but it's going to take a while for them to build it. They know it, and I think they're trying their best to put the best possible program together.
And this day and age of basketball, we've seen both sides of the tournament. We've seen young teams like Kentucky with the majority of freshmen playing go out there and win the whole thing, and then we've seen more veteran teams go out there and win the tournament. Does it help having experience in the tourney? Because I would have to imagine you bring in a bunch of freshmen, put them in a big stage. It's tough to play them as good as they are and have them deep into the tournament.
I think really what you need is a great balance between old and new, between good defense and good offense. You can't be one-sided. You have to be multidimensional. You have to be deep. You have to be lucky. And there's a lot of that goes into winning this tournament overall. But before you're lucky, you're probably pretty good, because luck is the residue of design. And these teams they're lucky for a reason, because they've worked really hard at the game.
You're going to have that mixture of youth and experience next year. I know the season just ended, but that's got to make you pretty excited looking at next year in 2014, 2015.
Well, I appreciate it, Chase. We are looking forward to it. We've given our guys this week off in terms of the physical aspect of playing basketball, but we will get back at it next week, and we'll work our 2 hours on the court. Some of it will be in a total team concept. Some of it will be individual instruction. But we're looking forward to it. I think as soon as the season ends, there's a tremendous emptiness when it's over. Mm-hmm. And you feel empty for your players, in particular, in this case, Dalton Pepper, because his college basketball career is over. But for all of these guys, you take a step back and say, okay, what am I doing now? Where am I going? What am I going to do? And now, we want to start preparing for next year as soon as possible.
Well, Fran, we appreciate a few minutes today. Thanks so much for coming in the studio, and we'll talk to you again real soon. And we wish you the best of luck from here on out, and let's get you back into the tourney next year and see some more wins for the Owls.
Yeah, if you can help us with that, Zach, that'd be great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Fran Dunphy right there, men's head basketball coach. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back right after these short messages.